Hi, this is Chef Michael from Part-Time Permies. Today we're going to be finishing up the rest of the products that are sitting in our freezer. So we've got 2.5 bags of tomatillos from the garden, and I got a bag of green tomatoes. It's about 12 pounds, just over 12 pounds, and so we're going to make some green salsa. Figured that's the best way to get it used up. Now, the way I usually make green salsa is I blanch and quickly cook the tomatillos, and then add in a combination of my fresh green onion, sometimes a little celery, a lot of cilantro, decent amount of garlic, some sauteed onions, where I boil that all together and then I puree it, and of course I finish with lime juice, and we like it pretty hot. Got a good deal on some jalapenos, so I've got some jalapenos and a little bit of some thyme that was laying around. So that's the usual plan, but to make all this salsa, now I got to refrigerate it, and it only lasts for a little while refrigerated, and I'm going to throw it out. So today we're going to go and do a cooked salsa, which I don't do often at all, and we're actually going to can it. I know a lot of people can. There's a lot of advantages to canning. You've got very long shelf life, anywhere from a year to 3 years, but there are also disadvantages. You need to go through the process. You need to have the equipment, you need to take the time. There's a lot of energy, personal energy, and heating, and you kind of overcook things, and so there are reasons why many times I stay away from that, but today this is going to be the best option. One, we're clearing out the freezer, and two, freezing salsa isn't going to be the best solution. So the reason we freeze, just so you know, I like it because it's quick and easy. Whether I'm doing it in a tie-up bag or a Ziploc bag, we can rinse down produce, get it in a bag, flat pack it, and then throw it in the freezer, and then pull it out like right now in January, and we find that the inputs are very inexpensive. Obviously, we've got plastic and we've got plastic bags. It's almost impossible to get around that right now. But I don't have to go through that prolonged, immediate activity of canning that day, and I can choose how I'm going to use it. And I feel like I get a really good fresh product, but it fills the freezer, and if for some reason we lose our electricity for an extended period of time, we lose our product. So these are the key ingredients. The plan is I'm going to chop up the onions and the garlic. We're going to give them a light saute. I don't want to really color them. I just want to break them down a little bit. I got some olive oil canola grapeseed blend. Just a good quality kind of neutral oil. All the tomatillos and the tomatoes are kind of half frozen, most way thawed out. What I'm going to do, since I could food process it and or put it in a Cuisinart and give it a grind, something like that, but I think the easiest thing to do today is I'm going to put it through my meat grinder. So we have I guess it's a big home meat grinder. It's a small, very small for a professional meat grinder. I use it for doing my sausage. It works pretty well for this type of volume. And I have my largest plate on here. I could go one size smaller, but I really want it chunky, and it's going to cook out. So this is my largest that this machine comes with. So we're going to grind all the green tomatoes and tomatillos, and actually the garlic and onion, after it's been sauteed, are going to grind through here. Well, it didn't get too dirty. I've still got some tomatoes to do, but the tomatillos are going pretty well. Thank goodness they're on the small side. They fit in there. Obviously, you can cut this stuff up a little bit and get it through the grinder easier if you think that's needed. I'm used to having a bigger professional grinder where I could just throw all this stuff, just pour it right down in, but this is working pretty well. So I'm happy with the onions. They've actually just begun to get the slightest amount of color, but not really. I am going to pull the heat's turned off. I'm going to run them through the grinder. All right, so you can see this just chopped up the onion a little bit finer. And so you don't have to have very well chopped or perfectly chopped vegetables because we're just grinding them. But we're going to have something that's going to sit in that salsa and be a little chunky, but at the same time not get in the way of anything. And so onion's done. I am going to grind up the celery, the jalapeno, and my green tomatoes. And we're going to cross our fingers that it all fits in here. All done grinding. As you can see, doing ground salsa is a lot easier than chopped salsa. You don't have to be fancy, anybody can do it. It's perfect for this type of salsa. It won't be as chunky, but it's gonna do real nice. So I'm just take part of the meat grinder. I'm gonna end up rinsing it down and washing it. So you know, meat grinder has a front clasp. It has some interchangeable cutting dies on it. Has a blade. Always got to make sure the flat piece of the blade's facing forward because it actually grinds by slicing almost like scissors across the flat. It's got an auger which compresses the material, and it's got a little feed chute on it. So pretty simple. All right. So I've got the heat up fairly high. I do want to watch the bottom that I don't burn it, but I've got a lot of volume. It's very cold. Grinding while half frozen is a huge help, so it's not such a sloppy mess, and the skins and stuff don't get caught in there. And yeah, so I'm going to get this up to a simmer. Very important we watch our heat and our process when we're canning, by the off chance that there's bacteria or botulism is a major concern with things that grow out of the garden, grow in the ground. It's a slight chance, but if you do contract botulism, the chance that you're going to be very sick, paralyzed, die is there. So it's not a chance that we're really willing to take. Now I might do it pretty much like this, or blanch tomatillos and stuff and grind it all up and just put everything in fresh if I was going to serve it that day. I like to grind an avocado in there because it makes it creamy. It's sort of a trick that I picked up from some people that know more than I do about making green salsas, but I'm not going to do that with the cooked salsa. I'm just concerned about cooked avocados. It is a salsa verde. Well, there's lots of verde, salsa verdes and caldo verdes, and I mean, go from French to Spanish to Latin American, and yeah, it's verde, it's green. And put some white pepper in there. White pepper is a big part of salsas and cuisines, a lot of the Spanish cuisines and Latin American, Mexican. So a little black pepper, like the black pepper. All right, so while that's coming to a simmer, I do have my water on I just got that going early so we don't have a delay for canning, but I've turned it down further. So I got one pot for our canning jars. I've got another pot that's just kind of warm. That's going to be for my lids. You want to start with clean jars. The best way to do that is either boil your jars or to put them in the dishwasher and run them on a heat cycle and sanitize and pull them out. I do that a lot of times when I'm doing a lot of bottles or jars. Works really well. In this case, I am working with a new batch of jars, so they're already pre-cleaned. So I will get them hot, but I'm not going to go through as thorough a cleaning and heat sanitizing cycle in the dish machine as I might otherwise on a reused one. Of course, the lids always have to be new. The center lid is always replaced when you're canning. Everything else can be reused. The ring around it and the glass, as long as it's not damaged. All right, I am going to take the white pieces off of here just to throw them in the salsa and cook them a little bit. Get them in earlier. We'll put the green in right at the very end. We will cook them, but just at the end. Cilantro is pretty interesting. So 20% of people cannot stand it. They have a genetic variation that makes it taste like soap and one of the worst things they've ever put in their mouth. For everybody else, it's probably one of the best things they've ever put in their mouth because it's so versatile and it's a great way to flavor and enhance many of the cuisines throughout the world. We have only begun to use cilantro, I think, in the United States a lot more aggressively and relearning, but Caribbean, Indian, Latin American, so it's called coriander. So the seed coriander is the seed from cilantro. Most of the world calls it coriander, regardless of the stems or the seeds or the leaves. Everything on the plant's edible. So the leaves are great, but the stems have the same flavor, and as long as they're young and mild, you can chop them up and use them in. I'm probably just going to take a little bit off today. If you're making curries or other things, I always put all the stems in, and in fact, a lot of curries are made with the root. So you clean the root out really well, and you use the root as part of your earlier cooking, and it has a little more earthy flavor. It's really nice. And then you add the leaves in, usually at the very end. Cilantro is a delicate herb, and even though it's sort of potent, and so you want to get it in at the very end. If you cook it too long, it can get very, very earthy and bitter and undesirable. So I'm always a little bit careful with how I get it in there. On the other hand, there's some recipes I've seen it go in real early. Some curries and things where it cooked in there quite a while, and soups, and it's still good. So I don't know. I just try and handle it lightly. But in this case, we're going to use almost everything on it. Leaves and stems. Just roll it up. Give it a chop. It's barely getting warm. It's very raw tasting. The onions, everything. It's very under seasoned right now. Other thing I can put in here, I put some coriander, dry coriander or cumin. I'm not going to put much in. So dry coriander spice, ground spice, tastes very citrusy. It's bright and citrusy. Cumin is earthy. Some things have a lot of cumin, but it's also kind of strong, so I don't want too much in here. Just a little background note. A lot of people don't really know how to juice limes, so you can put them through. I don't have a mechanical juicer. Wouldn't use it enough. So one thing we try and do is buy equipment that we're going to use frequently or can't be replaced by anything else or so efficient, like having a meat grinder. I only use it a few times a year, but it's almost indispensable. Other things, if I can't use them for multiple uses or regularly, it's not worth buying them because it takes up a lot of space. So I don't have a juicer. But limes are very hard to squeeze. If you cut them like this, and like a lemon, they're very hard to squeeze. If you cut them like this, they're a lot easier to squeeze. The other thing I might do is I might zest one of these with a microplane just to take the outside zest off. Zest on citrus is a lot more potent than the juice. And if you don't get the pith in it, it's pretty subtle. Cooking lime zest can get strong and bitter, so I don't want to put too much in, but I think I'll have a little in there. So, there's lots of ways to juice to get the little juicer things, but a hand juicing, this actually works pretty well compared to trying to take if it's really ripe, but trying to squeeze this thing is really very difficult compared to a lemon, so. So when I want to go and zest citrus, this is a microplane, pretty common, and it's going to just take off the very outside pass. So the most important thing is people go multiple times over it. That's not, you really just you want to break the pores open and get those oils out. So one pass is enough. So what you do is you actually roll it and you turn it. So I get most of one side of the lime. And then I can turn it to the other side. All right, then I can either do it onto a cutting board and scrape it up, Some people actually like to go right into the bowl. Depends. Once I have the zest. So most of the oil's in there. If you need to give it a chop, you can give it a chop. Always zest before you get the juice out, obviously. It's too hard to handle it. But I'm going to zest one more and then we'll finish juicing them. Other note is if you don't have frozen down tomatillos, don't worry. You can buy cans of tomatillos, small and large ones. They're very inexpensive. Every supermarket has them. They're either in the canned products or they're in the Spanish or the international section. The canned ones are great because frequently you blanch tomatillos, cook them a little bit before you make salsa to soften them and cook them out. So they've already done that for you. They're in a brine, either in water or a little salted water. Check that water. You may use some of that water, but I do find that a lot of times it's bitter and I discard it. It depends a little bit brand to brand. But yeah, be careful. If you get too bitter, it's not very good. We're going to get the fresh cilantro and green onion tops in there. You could have a pre-made salsa that you've had stored away, and if you want to enhance it and liven it up, add more lime juice, add the green onions, and add the cilantro fresh to your already canned salsa, and that's a nice way to refresh it and bring it back to life. Add some extra virgin olive oil. Oil, I mean, you get a little bit of that oil flavor, but oil helps carry flavors. It carries the heat, but it also just carries all the flavors and makes it more accessible to your tongue. So I want to finish with some good oil, but I didn't want to cook with it early because I don't want to lose the nice qualities of it. I think I am going to put a pinch of sugar in just to balance it. I could do honey or some other funny stuff, but
a pinch.
Yeah. Pinch. Stick your hand right in there. Sugar's antiseptic, for the most part, in high concentration. Yeah, we get the rest of that juice in there. Not really tasting the white pepper that much. I like the white pepper to jump out. Salsa is one of the things you can really overdo it easily, but I want that white pepper presence in my salsa. I think I'm going to go back and put a little more cumin and coriander in. I have some whole coriander seeds. I could stick some of those in there, but then they kind of explode, and that's a nice item, but might be overdoing it. A couple tablespoons of coriander have been in there. Again, we're working with about 12 pounds, plus the onions, so we're up in a 15-pound batch, I would say, something like that. So we've got a pretty sizable. This is an 8-quart container, so it's 2 gallons. All right, so I've taken the salsa off the heat. We're considering it done, and for canning, many of you already can, so this is pretty obvious. But a couple key items. Canning funnel really helps for chunky things. As a regular funnel, it will get stuck, and without a funnel, you'll have a hard time getting the product in the jar. I have some jars which are clean. I have canning tongs, which is really nice when they're hot. You can pick them up and they'll go right around a lot of different sizes of jars, so I have those. And then these are baskets that you can stack the jars in the baskets and lower them into the hot water. Just making it easier and without dropping them in or cracking them or having them sitting on the very bottom of the pot and causing the bottoms to break out. So that's the deal. So these are new jars. I actually got the new lids over here. Have lids left over from the last time I was canning, so these have been sanitized and heated. I've got the rings. Make sure you don't have rings that are rusty. I had a couple rusty ones. I just threw those off to the side. We'll get rid of those. And then the inner lid that's a one use only. Throw it away when you're done with it. If you finish it up, because of that seal, it's a one-time use. So these you want to keep, you want to bring them to a simmer and sanitize them so nothing gets caught in them. We want to fill these so they got about a 1/2 inch of head space at the top for expansion. done, we do want to make sure the top of the containers are clean. Just wipe them with clean rag or paper towel, so we don't catch anything in there and prevent them from sealing or getting them stuck. So we just want to tighten these down. We don't want to make them crazy tight. Just loosely sealed. Well, more than loosely sealed. We're not cranking them all the way down. So jars go in the racks here. We don't want them just packed in. A little bit of space. The pot's been going for a while. Wanted at a pretty heavy boil. This has a little canning temperature grade thing. If it's in the green, it's ready to go. It's in the green. And then we're gonna lower this thing in. If you got smaller jars, you can do 2 layers, but I think we can only do 1 on this. We don't want the water all the way to full to the top because it displaces. There you go. Water does need to cover the lids of the jars, and we're gonna let it go. All right, so we're done with this first batch. It ran for 15 minutes after it reached its full boil and back in the green zone. That's plenty of time. It might be almost more than we need. Of course, the more we cook it, the more we lose some of our lighter flavors and some of our color, but on a safety end, I think 15 minutes is where we need to be. A lot of times I put them on some sheet pans, but I put the first batch in the box. I'll leave them alone for about a day, cool down, and just hang out. There's no pectin or anything in them like a jam, so I'm not really concerned about them setting up. So we got a little leftover salsa here. This is still warm, but that's our finished product, minus being in the jar, which is here. Got some chips, found some chips. Actually thought we maybe didn't even have any around, so we got some chips. Other thing we got is guys doing some pork rinds we bought at the market last week. Food cost on this, I don't know, but I spent $1 on jalapenos, $2 on cilantro. Had the onions laying around because you always got onions and celery. Tomatillos came out of the garden, had an abundance of those. What else? Sugar, salt, spices. And yeah, food cost $4, something like that. So, and we're gonna get 2 gallons. So a little bit of labor, a little bit of work, a little bit of energy, but you know, what are you getting? Good salsa, this is gonna cost you what, $4 to $7 in the store. And we did the whole batch for like $7. So this is Chef Michael. We're part-time Permies, and we're cooking at home, doing our winter clean out the freezer and make good stuff. And so Salsa Verde, my style, and ready to go for chilies and whatever else we'd like to serve it on for the next number of months. And sorry, Justin, for getting your shirt dirty. I don't know. Happened to come out of the closet, but yeah, we'll wash it.
It's not green, not too bad.
It's not too green, so I guess, yeah. So anyway, yeah, good shirts from Justin Rhodes that we bought, and happen to be wearing one today.